the World Series having ended and our instructional league in Sarasota having wrapped, our organization and our front office are kind of fully focused on typical off-season business as might occur this time of year, despite the very atypical circumstances we're dealing with this year. Still in the midst of the pandemic and all the uncertainty that has provided our industry. We've as you've seen the last few weeks, made several moves related to managing our 40-man roster, and we'll continue now to with free agency being open to eye the free agent market. Conversations with other general managers and other clubs about roster crunches and the trade market are picking up in earnest, and I expect they'll do so even more next week when what's normally the general manager meetings would have been occurring, and I think all of us will try to simulate that level of conversation next week despite the remote work circumstances. And then from a baseball operations staffing standpoint, there's always work to be done there. This is definitely an unusual period of time and hiring climate, but we do have needs, and we'll be looking to fill those as we get through the winter. I remain very hopeful, and we're making every effort to keep our great baseball operations staff that we put together here over the last year and change intact as best as we can. We're taking everything day to day and week to week in this industry, but we're really making our best efforts to keep everyone online and busy. They did a great job with instructional league and alternate site and just supporting the major league team all season. And then we have some roles vacant on the major league coaching staff. It's with regard to the third base coaching position and the primary infield coach position. We're looking at a whole number of options there within and without the organization, and we'll see where that goes. On the pitching side, Chris Holt will step into the primary pitching coach, on-field pitching coach role, and Darren Holmes will return, predominantly working out of the bullpen, but also assisting Holt in all facets. So we will be rearranging internal roles there on the pitching side. I also think that Chris will retain the director of pitching oversight of the entire organization that he had last year as well. And on the minor league side and scouting and front office, we've got some smaller positions here and there that we're keeping our eye on and looking around the industry as we plug along. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions, general or otherwise.
Thanks, Mike. The order has been put in the chat if you'd like to look at that. Rock Kubako, you can lead us off.
Hey, Mike. The decision to pick up Iglesias as option for next year, was that made earlier in the off season, or did that come down to the last day or so? And was that a difficult decision based on economics?
It was not a difficult decision. Jose was tremendous for us in a very limited period of time, but he's got a track record dating back beyond that. I think he's a perfect fit for what we need right now. I think if he had not had the quad strain that he had, which he really incurred that first series in Boston just because he was running the bases so much and hitting so many doubles, and we were coming off of that abbreviated spring training, I think he would have been in the MVP conversation last year for the 60-game season had he played a lot of shortstop. And I think he's just a great fit for us right now. He's been a good influence, and he can help us in a lot of ways. With any type of decision and roster decision, there are always advantages in this business to using the time that's afforded to you by the rules and by contractual rights, and because circumstances change so much. And that's even more the case this year with COVID and the rules changing and the economic things evolving on an economic front on a daily basis. So I don't think that anyone in the organization was surprised that we exercised that option. We're really looking forward to having him back next year.
Nathan Ruiz, you're up next. Go ahead, Nathan.
Hey, Mike, I know the move activating Trey and Richie, that's mainly a procedural thing, but what's the latest on Trey and your expectations for him come spring?
It's going well. I mean, we've all got our fingers crossed. I think it's gone as well as it possibly could have gone since we got that horrible news back in March. I think any of us would have traded anything to get to November 2nd and be where we're at with him right now. So he's doing well. He's getting his strength back. He's slowly getting into baseball-ish type activities, and we're just it's been incredible. We have great doctors and access to just incredible medical resources here with the Orioles, and I think it's helping him, get the best outcome he possibly could. But he's still got some work to do.
Dan Connolly, you're up next. Go ahead, Dan.
Mike, I guess it's a several-part question here. Can you explain the Sanchez decision, how that affects as far as potential guys who are, facing arbitration? And also, what is his arbitration situation? You cannot outright him without his permission. Is that correct? So you can kind of lead us through all of those thought processes.
Sure. I mean, first of all, Yomer Sanchez is a very good player. I can see him helping us in a number of ways. He can move around all three infield spots. He's a plus defender. Certainly at second and third, and probably a pretty good shortstop. We have a little less info to go on there, but from what we've seen, we think he can help at that position as well. And I could also see him battling for a primary job. So there's a lot of ways that he fits and helps the team. That said, this is the time of year where interesting players come on waivers and teams claim them, and there's a lot of offseason left. And we'll just have to all see where this lands. But when he did appear on waivers, we were very interested and excited to claim him. And from a business standpoint of this, with any of these guys on the arbitration track, we'll just have to see where this goes. Things change, moves are made, and like I was saying, this business throws new information at you every day, and things can change. So we're just navigating the off season as we normally would, but I could really see him being a great fit for this club.
Rich Dubroff, you're up next. Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Mike, when you signed Iglesias last year, you made a point of saying one of the reasons that you signed him was to help out the young pitching staff. Now, is the acquisition of Sanchez an indication that you're placing more emphasis on infield defense?
Well, I think that's just kind of where Yomer's value has come from, mostly the last couple of years and thus far in his career. We like getting talented players, good players, and many times that's guys where it's bat over glove, and then sometimes it's the reverse. And we'll see what he does, but it's definitely. Since I've gotten here, the middle infield has been an area where we've made continual additions through every conceivable market, and it's been a point of emphasis. I think him contributing there with his glove and bat will help the team. But yeah, we've got some young pitchers coming up, and I think it's hopefully Iglesias will be a big help there as well.
Steve Molesky, you're up next. Go ahead, Steve.
Mike, any clarity on the minor leagues yet, or a timetable on when you think you'll have it? And related to that, can you say yet today where any of your affiliates will be next year? Can you announce any affiliates or tell us anything about that?
I can't make any of those announcements right now, and the reason for that is that the talks at the league level are still ongoing, and we have not received any official word about the overall structure. There's info that trickles out of those discussions, but until any of it is certified, it's wouldn't be responsible to talk about publicly. I know they're working on it. They're making good progress. I think, as we've said all along, we're going to find out that player development in minor league baseball is going to be in a very healthy spot, despite the crisis that has taken place due to COVID. And I think we're going to have a really good setup for what the needs are for the minors and for the fans across baseball for the next 25, 50 years. But that work's still being done. With regard to next year, no, there's nothing official yet in terms of any changes to what would be a normal minor league schedule. But I think we all know that, it's very possible that we may have to make some adjustments and maybe not get right back to normal right away. Some of that contingency planning is going on. Our opinions are being sought as player development people and heads of front offices. And so we get involved with the league and some committees that are working on those contingency plans. I will say that I am very optimistic and hopeful, and we're all very motivated to have much more on the player development side than we had this year, no matter what occurs. So that's kind of the push from the league, and we've got to prepare though for a bunch of different things across the spectrum, from a full normal minor league season, which is everyone's hope, to something that starts a little differently and then morphs into a full minor league season, to other options, and we just don't know what it's going to be yet.
All right, now we'll open it up to further questions or any follow-up questions, and if you have one, please put your name in the chat. Rock, if you want to go ahead.
Mike, what would you anticipate announcing the rest of the players to be named later from a couple of the trades?
I received indication today, actually, that may happen on the sooner side. We're still waiting for official memos from the league and so forth. It just, our transactions are thrown into flux with the COVID rules and all that. But I think we might get that here soon.
Nathan, you're up again. Go ahead.
Mike, a couple prospect-related things. Do you have any update on Heston Kjerstad? And then with the Rule 5 protection, do you have a number in mind for how many guys you guys are hoping to be able to add to the roster?
Sure. Yeah. As we've announced prior, Heston did not participate in the instructional league program. It's been our policy with non-sports, non-physical injuries, medical matters, that we don't specify what it is, and ultimately it's up to the player. We're looking forward to seeing him in Sarasota next spring, but unfortunately, it just didn't line up for him to participate in our camp. And I don't have a number that I would publicly announce, but we do have a lot of prospect type guys that require protection from the Rule 5 draft this year. I think that at this point we have the 40-man space, and our planning indicates that hopefully we'll be able to be pretty aggressive in adding these guys and be protective of our prospects with what we're trying to do in terms of a rebuild. But also, I think we're fortunate that the group that we have to add, it's a pretty big league ready group. These aren't guys like an A ball or even high A. These are double A, triple A players that are fairly polished. And so when they do get added to the 40-man roster, they'll be pretty functional members of that roster, if not right away, then very soon. So that always makes the decisions easier. It's tough when you have to add somebody from a real low level of the minor leagues and then kind of carry them on the roster for a couple of years and whittle away at their minor league options.
David Loria, you're up next. Go ahead, David.
Hey, Mike. I don't know if this is a hard question or not, but due to the uniqueness of this season, there were a number of players across the two leagues who saw big league action, who in a quote-unquote normal season may not have been any higher than Double A. Did that tell you anything about development or how many reps are needed at the minor league level?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I think that ultimately part of the work that's being done to reconfigure minor league baseball a little bit is going to give us the best of both worlds, where we're going to have perhaps a little bit more ability to use a complex environment that you kind of saw in action here with the alternate sites this summer, where there was a lot of creative hands-on coaching that's just hard to do when there's games going on, or where you have a situation with a player like Ryan Mountcastle, for instance, where everyone's telling him to work on his swing decisions, but that's just hard to do while you're trying to win a AAA game, and it's easier to do when you're in a sim game. And so there's a lot to like there, but there is no substitute for the experience of playing professional baseball, the travel, the competition, the interaction with the fans, the pressure, the game situations. And then also for front offices, those statistics are so meaningful for us in evaluating our own players, but also scouting players in other organizations, that we need that back as soon as possible. So I think we saw this year how player development's changed, and how we can keep doing some of what we were able to do at alternate site type environments, but we want our games and our leagues and our stats back too. So I from everything I understand, I think the new configuration will allow both of those things to continue, which will be nice.
Dan Connolly, you're up next. Go ahead, Dan.
Mike, you've committed to basically $3.5 million for Iglesias. You had mentioned about the free agent market. It's something you really haven't been too involved in since you've been with the Orioles. Do you anticipate that $3.5 million to Iglesias may end up being your biggest expenditure payroll-wise for this year? And how do you see the free agent market playing out for you and really overall for the industry?
Well, seems like this is the most uncertain free agent market. I don't think anyone knows how it's going to go. I know that I was watching very carefully the option decisions that were taking place and the qualifying offers, just to get some type of indicator. And I think there were some interesting things there, and we'll see. It's just, our revenue picture as an industry is so uncertain next year, and that's a big factor. But also teams want to win, and there are good players out there, and eventually, this crisis is going to pass, hopefully sooner than later. And so I think teams are going to compete for players. But, we'll as it pertains to additional free agent moves for the Orioles, we're just going to have to see. I think, we're going to monitor the market. I think while this sounds a little maybe strange for a team that was in fourth place last year with a losing record and has not been shy about saying that it's rebuilding, I look at the players that either already on our 40-man roster or are soon to be on our 40-man roster, and it's a very functional group that all of whom we kind of want to either they have settled roles with the team, or we want to audition some of these guys and leave paths open for them this year. And we're fortunate to have some upper level starting pitching depth. I think our bullpen right now is fairly set, and it's a quality group. I'm not saying we won't look to upgrade that or add a veteran presence via free agency, but it's definitely a group that will work for next year. Our outfield, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say we have 6 to 8 outfielders on our 40-man roster. We will have 6 to 8 outfielders on our 40-man roster that are high quality, that are interesting young guys, players with options. And so I feel like that group's pretty fleshed out, and something that we want to see. We want to see in action next year. And then the infield, we're still addressing that with our arbitration class and with a move like Iglesias the other day, and we'll continue to monitor ways to fortify our infield. But we have a lot of really interesting internal candidates on our roster there now, and the same with the 2 catchers. So we're trying to get better. We're trying to amplify the talent base across the whole organization, as we've been talking about for 2 years now. But I do feel like this is a group that's not full of holes right now, and our team is improving. It got a little bit better 2 years ago, got a little bit better last year, and there's a lot of guys here that still have a lot of room to get better. So I think there's an interesting group here, and we're just going to try to be smart about mixing in any additional acquisitions right now.
Rich Dubroff, you're up next. Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Mike, you said on the third base coaching position, you haven't made a decision whether it's going to come from within, but is it likely that you're going to go with 7 coaches or 8 coaches?
Well, I think the number's higher than that to start with, usually. Yeah, a number of things could happen. I think we'll probably, if I were handicapping, I think we'll have the same number of coaches as last year. But we leave our options open for things if our search doesn't pan out the way we envision, or we have some conversations internally where we decide to structure things a different way. I don't want to rule that out.
Steve Molesky, you're up. Go ahead, Steve.
Mike, if you start to think about the rotation possibilities for next spring, do Aiken and Kramer have a nice leg up because of what they did, even in a few starts? And can you foresee filling other areas with outside guys, or do you think the time is coming for your own guys to get in there?
No, I definitely think we'll be signing some starting pitchers. I mean, you can never have enough. You see, even last year, we got the injury bug like every team does on a couple of our starters. So we're definitely going to need to sign some outsiders, whether it's a major or minor league deal. Will be case by case and TBD. But yeah, I think that Dean and Keegan's debuts went about as well as they should have gone, and we really liked what we saw from them. Just not results and stuff, but their professional demeanors, the way they carry themselves. I mean, I think any of you guys that watched the games were impressed with those aspects as well. Knowing that there will be some additional competition next year in camp. This players have rough sophomore years sometimes, so to speak. That's all to be expected. So I don't think we're going to, lock anything in stone, and we want to have that competition. But they've certainly more than put themselves on the map, not just for the 2021 rotation, but we're hoping for, the next 5 years or and beyond. That these are guys that are part of a playoff group here.
All right. Any final questions from anyone? Dan Connolly, one final question.
Under the wire, Mike. Hey, what kind of compelled you to write the letter to fans today that came out? Obviously, it was an organizational-wide letter, but why?
Well, I think that number one, it's beginning of the off season, but also with aspects of uncertainty that float around out there about our franchise from time to time. We thought it was the right time for the fans to hear from me, to know the level of commitment that exists across all corners of our organization to reviving winning baseball in Baltimore, in downtown Baltimore, to getting back to the point where we're bringing 75 million fans through the city, as has been done here over the last 25 years or so. And it seemed like a good time for that from a number of angles. And we want the fans to know how important this is to us. It's very personal to me. We want this to work. There's a lot of hard work going into this. I see a lot of great signs with what's going on our farm system, on our major league team, with the people that we have here building towards this effort, and just with the talent that we have in the organization and that's coming in the organization. But it's a tough division and a tough business, and the Rays were in the World Series last year, and the Yankees came close, and we've got and the Jays were in the playoffs, and we're gonna have a fight on our hands, but we're gonna get there.